Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope.
This is an NB13 production.
Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Talking all facts, keeping egos. If you got receipts, brother, bring them to the show. When it come down to it, who to go? All you LeBron James fans, I want smoke. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Talking all facts, keeping ego. If you got receipts, brother, bring them to the show. When it come down to it, who to go? All you LeBron James fans, I want smoke. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope.
This is an NB13 production.
Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Talking all facts, keeping egos. If you got receipts, brother, bring them to the show. When it come down to it, who to go? All you LeBron James fans, I want smoke. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Talking all facts, keeping ego. If you got receipts, brother, bring them to the show. When it come down to it, who to go? All you LeBron James fans, I want smoke. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope.
This is an NB13 production.
Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Talking all facts, keeping egos. If you got receipts, brother, bring them to the show. When it come down to it, who to go? All you LeBron James fans, I want smoke. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Everybody hates Pope. Talking all facts, keeping ego. If you got receipts, brother, bring them to the show. When it come down to it, who to go? All you LeBron James fans, I want smoke.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Hey, man, just checking in on y'all, just checking in. Today, I got something special planned for you. I know that we've been focusing on the sports aspect of things, but as I promised you, over here at Everybody Hates Pope, we cover a wide range of topics. As I always say, I'm way too opinionated to stay in one box. But today, man, I was having a discussion with all this situation with George Floyd going on. I was having a discussion with a good friend, and we was kind of at an impasse as far as how, as a people, we should go about this situation or this crisis, so to speak. We have a lot of protests in the street nationwide. Nationwide, we're protesting in the street, and we basically had a disagreement. My brother seems to think that we need help, we need allies, in order to ultimately get where we want to be. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but where I disagree at is where I say that we don't have allies, we never have allies, and we're never going to have allies. It's just not going to happen. My brother disagrees with me. Hold on one second. Hey, what's up?
Hello.
What's up? What's up? You're on the show, so.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Hey, folks, family. Like and subscribe.
Oh, I gotta be a scrub, huh? Okay. What's up, ID? Don't you want to be on the show?
What's up, y'all? Alright, now listen, man. Y'all can follow to this little dude, but after following him, go to my channel. The link is bio. And you're gonna put it in the comments, because my channel might be more litter, okay? So go to my channel.
Your channel's gonna be more litter. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Hey, I'm sorry. It's just a bad time, Terry. Everything okay?
Yep, we good.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye, man. Like in the video.
Yeah, no doubt. Bye, ID. Well, that was that. Hey, man, but back to the show, man. I'm about to call my man Dean up. Dean is a very, very knowledgeable man. He's an author, wrote some books, but we'll get into that. Let's call Dean, man. He's over in Harlem, New York. Let's see what he's talking about.
Hello?
Dean.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, guys?
I cannot hear you. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
See if this works. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, my headphones are not working. How's everything?
It's good, man. It's good. We were in the middle of having a conversation, though. We woke up this morning. We had a wide range of conversations, but we basically was talking about having allies, the black community having allies to get to where we need to be. It's my understanding that you believe that we need to have some allies, and our settled disagreement seems to be like you want to have allies, and me personally, I don't feel like we've had allies, and I don't believe that we're going to have allies. You want to expound on that?
So what I was saying to you earlier was that in order for, or the way things have changed in the United States have been through blood and at the through the direction of white people. And what I mean by that is the Revolutionary War, how our country was founded, that was done through bloodshed. It was done through rioting, which then became the U.S. Forces at that time, the Continental Army, which then fought the British for the right to create what we know today as America. That was done through violence, guerrilla warfare, but it made a change. And our Constitution is written based on a lot of the issues they had to deal with the British. Where they were British soldiers can come into your house with impunity. So things like that. Then we go down at that point in time, even though America was based on all men are created equal as our doctrine, as that happened, not everyone in America was created or was free, or seen as being created equal, or seen as being free. 1860 mid 1800s, I think it was like 1860. You had Buchanan in office, the civil rights movement at that time, or the abolitionist movement at that time, was heating up. So was the war between the South and the North. I think it was in 1850 when they had the Missouri Compromise, when that came out, and that basically allowed for certain states to be keep their rights to own slaves. But what happened? The abolitionist movement pushed forward. So it's a group of white people who were, at that time, black people could not protect. And if they did, they were killed, they were murdered. We had people like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass who were going around and working with abolitionists to free slaves and to also put this problem to task, the solution regarding slavery. So then finally, Civil War erupts, and then slaves are then given their freedom. Civil War ended 1865. And June 19th, all slaves were free throughout the continent United States. No new states would have slavery under its belt. That was done primarily by white abolitionists. And when the slaves were freed, they helped the northern armies win many of the wars or the battles that occurred during that war. There's some great stories about African American servicemen and women who helped win that battle, that war. But we didn't do it by ourselves.
Okay.
Look at the history.
But let me say this, okay? You point out the actions of a few, and you make it as if they were our actual ally. The abolitionists were the actions of a few. However, I will give abolitionists credit. Okay, I'll give credit where credit is due. However, what I'm trying to say is the slaves were not freed. The Civil War wasn't about us. We were not freed by white people. And also, it's very important to remember that we fought in that Civil War. So we fought for our own freedom. We were not, no white person did us a favor and freed us. That wasn't a favor. That was not them being an ally. It had nothing to do with us. Well, it had nothing to do with us personally. It's not like they woke up one day, Abraham Lincoln woke up one day and says, you know what, this is wrong. So I cannot count that. Now, the discussion that we were having centered around the LGBTQ community. And you were basically saying that we need their help and we need to remember them and their struggle as well. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Am I following you correctly?
We need the help of all people. Keep in mind, right? The LGBTQ community, it comprises of white people, Asians, blacks, the whole rainbow. There are gay people in all walks of life, in all civilizations.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is they have not helped us to this point. And I don't understand, you're hopeful, and I can appreciate that, but they have not been our ally to this point. What makes you think they're going to be our ally if we be their ally anymore? I mean, the black community have helped the LGBTQ community in their struggle, and they ultimately have won their fight. And now they are at a point where they actually dominate many areas of our society, and they're actually at a point where it is extremely, you better be cautious to say anything about them. They are very well respected. So what I'm trying to say is, once they won their war, they never reached back to help us. I'm focused on that point. When did they help us?
Okay, so I'm going to break it down to you like this, because this is, I love these discussions. But we have to, within this discussion, we have to have some understanding about that. And I like to use literal and figurative, I like to use evidence regarding these things. A lot of what we're discussing can also be considered subjective. And I can't have a subjective conversation because it's based on a person's opinion. I'd rather have that conversation based on facts. Okay. So, for example, you say you mentioned about whether or not what have the LGBTQ community or what have gay people done for us.
Now, but before you go on, I want to be clear. What has the gay community as a whole done for us? I know that you could come up with examples of one or two or this or that. As a whole, what has the gay community done for us?
Okay. To that point, I want to narrow down this word "whole" that you're using, right? Because that's saying all black people like fried rice, or all black people like fried chicken, all black people eat watermelon. As a whole, they do this. As a whole, they do that. And that's the kind of talk that has created a lot of these situations.
Well, then allow me to correct. I don't mean whole as in every single gay person. What I mean when I say whole, I mean the majority. It was a movement. Much like what you're calling on us to do for them. You want us as a whole, as the majority, to move and think about them and not be hypocritical. So it's not all gay people, but when I say whole, I mean as a majority. They made a movement. For instance, they made a movement to gain their rights. That does not mean that every single gay person did things for gay rights. It just means that the majority of gay people fought for their rights. So I just simply mean the majority of gay people.
Okay. So with that same thought. Okay. Now, do you think it's more, do you believe, or would you say there's evidence to believe that someone who has experienced the same, or had lived through the same experiences as another person, would be more likely to help them or less likely to help them?
That's a tough question.
So let's say, for example, right? You and I went to prison. I don't know why the hell I use that. Okay, let's say you and I went to a baseball game. Okay. I get hit in the head by a pitch. Then another baseball game is like, you get hit in the head by a pitch. And I see you in pain. Am I going to go there and help you out because I know what that feels like? And I know what the type of pain he's in, so I want to go over there and help him out as best I can? Or am I just going to sit there and say, well, he shouldn't have been sitting there?
Okay, yes, then I agree with you. Experience would lead you to help out someone.
Okay, so with that understanding, we're talking about, when we talk about the LGBTQ community, we're talking about a group of people who have had to hide themselves for millennia, let's say, for thousands of years. They had to hide themselves because of either religious persecution, where it's being gay is bad, being gay is wrong, or because of societal persecution, where there were laws created against sodomy, about homosexuals showing love in public. These were laws that were created to prevent.
When was there a law stating that homosexuals can't show public affection?
They've got it in Texas, probably still on the books in Texas, but they've had laws throughout this country regarding it, about homosexuality.
Okay.
Sodomy in the Bible talks about sodomy.
Well, sodomy is. I agree with sodomy, but I was talking about the public display of affection. I did not know it was against the law for two gay people to hold hands or to kiss or hug in public. I didn't know that.
I will take a step back on that, because I like to be evidence based. I could probably find some examples of that. I don't have any readily available to me, but that's something that we can look at to confirm whether or not. I know socially it wasn't acceptable, but I don't know for a fact if there were laws about like a man and a man or a woman and a woman holding hands in public.
All right.
But I know sodomy is definitely was definitely illegal in many places in the United States.
Do you do you think it should be or it shouldn't be?
What two people do in their own home is for them to do. That's part of the freedoms that we have in the United States.
All right.
Whatever you do in your home, as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of someone else or infringe on the rights of someone who is not capable or not legally capable of making their own decisions. Other than that, go at it.
Okay, but Dean, in fairness, we're getting kind of away. I don't want to talk about what I'm trying to say is.
I'm
okay.
Okay, just like we have to build a house, we got to get those. You got to get that framing up.
Brick by
So
brick.
this work that I'm talking about. So now we had the conversation about whether or not there's somebody who can empathize, who's been through that same ordeal, would be more likely to work to help someone who's in that same situation. So now I bring it to the 60s, okay, 50s, 60s, civil rights movement. During that time, would you think, and keep in mind this also, these are people who cannot openly in public show that they are gay. There were a lot. Liberace.
You said you was going to walk that back. I mean, until you can prove that, I don't know that to be true.
I said I was going to walk back if it was legally, if there was a law against that type of expression. Socially, it was not. It was frowned upon.
Okay.
And people used to get beat, killed, and tortured. Look at Germany. Okay, it wasn't just the Jews that they were rounding up for the death camp. It was black people. It was gays. Anybody that did not fit into their ideology or the Nazi ideology, they were rounded up also. Some of the people who had it the worst were the what do you call it? Well, yeah, black people, yes, but the traveling, I forget what they're called, the group that they're called. But there's a lot of people who live through these terrible times, and so you and I, we can't fake being black unless we put some white paint on or some real good concealer. People are gonna know we're black. But being gay, that's something you can hide.
Exactly. You're proving my point. This is my look. That's exactly what I'm trying to say here.
The conversation we're having right now is about whether or not they were allies.
Yes. Let's get on with that.
There are people who are allies, okay, who are allies to the movement, who may not have disclosed that they were homosexual, but they did what they could for the movement. because they understood what it was like to be persecuted. And I would say that more than a majority of homosexual people have in some way helped the civil rights, during that time, helped the civil rights movement. Now, again, these are things that are subjective. I don't have actual numbers on that, but I can make a educated, deductive reason based on that information that homosexuals would have stood by and helped African Americans for their freedom.
Okay, can I jump in for a second?
Okay, go ahead.
So this is what I'm trying to say. I had this discussion with a young lady named Atia, very, very knowledgeable, and she'll be on the show as well because she always gets the best of me. But I had the same conversation with her about Asian people, whether they be Vietnamese, Japanese, or Chinese. I'm not trying to offend anyone when I say Asian people. Everything is offensive nowadays, so I need to put that out there. But what I was trying to tell her is they have never been our ally. And she hit me with, well, one person did this or that person did that, this person did that. That does not count as an ally. When you have an ally, they make substantial moves towards your movement. So in order to be considered an ally of the black movement, the gay community need to have donated a large sum of money to the Nation of Islam, or donated a large sum of money to the NAACP, or built community centers in our neighborhood. They built a grocery store in our neighborhood, joined us in a serious march with serious numbers. I know that some have joined us in a march, but when I say in serious numbers, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder. There's none of that on the books, man. None. But we know that they are powerful and they are elite. Hence the fact that all Hollywood movies, you cannot watch a Hollywood movie or TV show without seeing gay symbolism at this point. You cannot listen to music without seeing gay. Everything in entertainment is you're going to see gays represented heavily. So at this point, they are dominating in certain areas. They have made it to a point where it is not okay to fuck with them at all. You bet not say anything. You'll be labeled as homophobic. You may not be able to make a living. That is called dominance. That's called being an equal. That is called being an equal. When Dwayne Wade's son came out and, you know, he wanted to share how he felt and he wanted to attack them, they caught holy hell. And then I go back to the social aspect of it. You do not see gay people being murdered and then the murderer walking away. It doesn't happen. If you bother a gay person today in today's society, if you bother or if you touch a gay person, you're going to pay holy hell for it. So at what point do we take a look and say they are no, first of all, to compare them on our level is disrespectful. Just because there is no group in America, there is no race of people or group of people that don't face violence, that don't face murder, that don't face judgment or bullying in some way. I mean, you can take white people. If white people go to the wrong neighborhood, they can face bullying. So we're not here to create an environment where every single person that's gay will never ever have a harsh word said to them. Come on. So what I'm trying to say is to compare them just because they had their own difficulties, to compare them to us is disrespectful, considering the fact that they were never enslaved, considering the fact that they never had to go through civil rights era, considering the fact that they can actually conceal who they are. No one even has to know their sexuality. Nobody even has to know that they're gay. We cannot hide the fact that we're black. And every single day, 24/7, there's an attack on us. I don't see that with the gay people, so I don't understand why we have to help them. They should be helping us.
They are helping us. They are helping us in... Sorry?
Tell me how.
Well, let's see. So again, let's say 10% of gay people, or 10% of humans are gay. Okay, so that means 10% of, let's say, African Americans are gay. So those are the same 10% of African Americans who are fighting both the civil rights front and fighting on the LGBTQ front. So that's a group of people that we know are helping with that.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that I'm confused. You're saying because there's 10% black gays, and we're assuming that they're fighting for us, so that automatically means that 10% of gays are fighting for us?
No. I'm putting a narrative together. I'm putting numbers together. Okay, so that's 10% of 12% of people in America. Okay. So then you have then you have white gays. Now, based on what we had said earlier, we say it's more than likely that a majority of them, because of their experiences, would be on the side of equal rights.
No. Now that's a trick bag. I did agree with you, but you kind of tricked me if you want to use it for that. No. And also, I want to point out, in the gay community, black people, you see, this is the problem that this is why you got me with that one. There are gay racists. Like, just because you're gay doesn't mean, oh, look at the black people, we have to struggle, we're going to help. No, there are gay racists. There are a whole crap load of gay racists.
Agreed.
So, I mean, even in the gay community, the black gays get treated like shit. There's racism. Listen, man, white supremacy and racism, that supersedes everything. Everything. We're the only community that think like that. Our gay community, they want to hide behind the shield of being gay. It makes them feel better about not catching holy hell for being black. So these gay people that are black, they love to identify with being gay because they think that that's going to give them a pass for being black. And they end up catching even more hell because now you're gay and you're black.
No, sir, that is not correct. One of the reasons
what part isn't correct?
Why they cling more to that is because their own people put them through more ridicule than anyone else.
I disagree.
I
disagree. That's something they label the black community as homophobic. But if you really want to think about something for a second, we're the actual only community that don't really bother gay people like that. We may say a name, but we're not out here murdering. See, all these laws that you were talking about, you started off with saying how oppressed they are and how many laws that they had to get passed. And you started off by saying that they had laws against them for public displays of affection. You said that. Now, what black people made those laws?
What black people made any laws?
Exactly. So we're not the ones that made laws that actually made it illegal for them to get married. We're not the ones that made the laws that made it illegal for them for public displays of affection. We didn't make those laws. But in today's society, we get blamed for all this homophobia, but at the end of the day, nobody treats gay people worse than the actual white people. I disagree with that. We don't love the idea of a gay lifestyle. We don't embrace the idea of a gay lifestyle, but we're not the ones out here murdering gay people and making laws so that they can't have equality. We never did that.
So that's what you think. Okay. So based on what you're saying then, so is it your belief that social power is not a form of power?
It's a form of power, but it doesn't matter. It's a form of power, but it doesn't matter. My point is this. I wouldn't give a damn if I walked outside and people may call me a nigger or something, because at that point I could whoop their ass. I don't care about no name calling. I don't care about that. But what I care about is the laws that make shit unequal. What I care about is education that make things unequal. If I was gay, I would care about the fact that I couldn't get married. If I was gay, I would care about laws. I don't care about, you cannot create an environment, a social environment where everybody is safe from bullying and name calling. Or accepting you, period. I can't walk outside and expect for everyone to accept me. Some people might say, man, this dude is too opinionated, he talk too much. Oh, he's skinny, I don't like that. Oh, he wears glasses. Or he has a beard, I don't like guys with beard. You can't expect everyone to love you and accept you socially. That type of shit don't matter. What matters is laws, fairness, equality, justice, and peace. In the gay community, they have justice. In the gay community, they have freedom. In the gay community, they have peace. So let's get down to the nooks and crannies. Let's get down to the real stuff, man. This is not about people liking you. This isn't about people that may name call you or accepting your lifestyle. There's people out here, there's drug dealers all the time. I don't embrace that. I don't accept a drug dealer lifestyle, but that don't mean I don't love my brother.
Okay, would you agree with me when I say that the laws of a country or the laws of a land follow the change in social acceptances?
No, I gotta give that some thought. I gotta give that some thought. But what I'm trying to tell you is, I want to stick to the point because the idea is that black people are homophobic when nothing could be further from the truth. And I also want to say is I am never going to get to a point where I embrace homosexuality. I don't care what laws are made. I don't care. I'm never going to get to that point where I embrace homosexuality. That doesn't mean that I don't like the person. My next door neighbor is homosexual. My next door neighbor is. I've never said a bad word to him. I don't bother him. I don't intend to hurt him. I'm not going to make in fact, I don't even want to get into it like that, but listen, the idea is laws, the idea is freedom, justice, and peace. All this other stuff is totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant.
On that, I can hear you on that. Not being able to accept an idea. I can hear I can get where you with that. Like, for example, I can't accept racism. So it's an ideology that I can't get my head around. How somebody can hate someone just because of the color of their skin. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So I can understand where you're coming from. I can definitely understand where you're coming from. But now, what the point I was trying to make is this, right? In our society, the way laws change or the way laws get made is that as our society starts changing and things start becoming more acceptable in our society, the laws then follow suit. That's the way the United States has always been. Things may become acceptable in our society, and then somebody may realize, like, oh, you know what? This is in the law book. Why is this here in the law book? Let's get rid of it. It makes no sense now.
Okay, then that would further my point that black people are not the ones that are homophobic, because that would suggest the fact that socially, all these years that gay people had to fight oppression, that would mean they were fighting oppression socially from white people, considering that white people are the majority in this land. So socially, it was white people giving hell to gay people, which in turn led to the lawmaking, if I'm following you correctly. But I'm just saying this. Let's not pretend, and I'm going to stick with what I'm saying. A lot of black gay people, they tend to identify as gay because it makes them feel better about being black, and they think they're going to have some cover from being black. And then they get into the gay community and find out that racism is everywhere. Racism is in the gay community as well. It doesn't escape because you're in the gay community. But I want to bring us back. I'm asking you, how have they been our ally? Because I don't understand, for the life of me, I keep saying this, they've won their fight. They've won their fight to the point where if you kill a gay person, they automatically label that as a hate crime. For instance, you showed me a murder in New York at an apartment, and the guy was black. They murdered him, and you presented that as evidence that gay people are still being murdered by the police. But there's no evidence that the police even knew he was gay. The only evidence is they knew he was black. So why is that evidence for you that, see, police are killing gay people? How did you connect those two dots?
Okay, so first off, clarify something that you said earlier. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was the nation's premier civil rights legislation. The act outlawed discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It does not say sexual preference on there. The LGBTQ community is not protected under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is one of the changes that they're fighting for right now. To add that.
Wait, hold on. You see, you're being tricked. You're playing with words. It said, you're saying it doesn't say sexuality, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you why, and I'm gonna tell you why it shouldn't. Because the gay community, at least the white gay community, and anyone else that wasn't black, the gay community didn't die like we died for those civil laws. And the fact that they attached themselves to the civil, you should be disrespected by that. And listen, they never caught the hell that we caught, and then on top of that, they never caught the hell to attain those civil rights. Look what we went through to get those civil rights. So two things. They never caught the oppression that we caught, and they never fought the fight like we fought. So they don't deserve to be under that. That is ours. That was intended for us. Because at the time, we were the only ones catching that type of hell. That doesn't mean that gay people wasn't catching some hell.
So
See,
based on
that's the part where they get us every time. The gay community raised their hand and said, "Hey, look, we caught hell too. So let's mosey on over with the black people and let's be with y'all." No, F that. No.
Hey, based on what you're saying right now, right? Let's put this in numbers, right? Okay, you're saying it says race, color, religion, sex, or national origin.
Right.
You're saying that this act is for black people. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that black people led that movement, and we ultimately got that bill passed. Now they added in some things, but they needed to add in some things because when you look at sex, there are black men and black women. When you look at religion, there are black people that are Muslim, there are black people that are Christian. It was for us, but they had to broaden it so it covers all black people.
And aren't there gay black people as well? So what? They're not covered by this?
There are gay black people, but the bottom line is we wasn't fighting for that situation. Listen, sexuality is one thing. That's private. No one ever has to know your sexuality. And let's please remember when this bill was passed. At the time that this bill was passed, in the black community at least, there wasn't a large number of gay people. That was such a minority of us. We wasn't raising our hand and saying, "Hey, don't forget about our gay people." That's how that happened. Yeah, we didn't include our gay people. I'm sorry. We didn't include our gay people.
So you're saying that this Civil Rights Act is just for black people?
Black people and minorities. Meaning black and brown people. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Wow. So this is the only part of the Constitution that's specifically for black and brown people. It's not for all people.
Well, you read it out. You said gender, sex, religion, and what else? You're the one who read it out.
Yeah, and I did. It doesn't say on here for people of color. It just, the act outlaws discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin.
Okay, great. I don't understand your point.
What's my point? My point is, this law that was created, okay, which in my opinion governs all citizens of the United States and all people under the umbrella of the United States, regardless of their color, their race, their religion, their sex, or their national origin.
Okay. I can agree with that.
Okay, this law covers those people. What this law does not cover is people and their sexual identity. So based on this, right? Based on this,
mm-hmm.
I can discriminate against someone who's homosexual. I can't discriminate against them if they're black. I can't discriminate them against their religion. Can't discriminate against them against their sex or their national origin. But if they're gay, I can discriminate all day.
Okay. There's a reason why, though, at that particular time, the Civil Rights Act came because of our fight. That was the source of it. Would you agree with that? The source, the becoming of the Civil Rights Act was because of black people.
I would agree with that. But you're saying, but part of your argument you're saying is that they have equal footing, that gay people have equal footing, right?
In 2020. In 2020, I'm saying that.
They do not have a law that bans discrimination against gay people.
Well,
locally,
let me say this.
Locally, there are laws that ban it. Locally, there are laws that ban it, but there's no federal law that bans it, that outlaws it.
Okay, Dean.
And part of the conversation that's going on to the Supreme Court is to say that even though it doesn't specifically say it in the Civil Rights Act, but that the intent of the Civil Rights Act was to cover also sexual orientation, to give them that protection that they have at the local level, but they do not have at the federal level.
Okay, Dean. Let me say this. This is the reason I don't like including and fighting for other people, because at this point, we're going on 45 minutes. George Floyd and an abundance of black men are being murdered in the streets. And we're sitting here talking about gay people's rights. They can do that themselves. And we're talking, not only that, we're talking about their rights back in 1960. This is 2020. And in 2020, they don't need a law for discrimination, because the fact of the matter is you cannot F with gay people. That's the fact of the matter. In 2020, if you murder a gay person, your ass is going to jail. Period. You can't talk about gay people. So whether there is a law for them or not, they are very well protected in today's society. They're very well represented with the power and the elite in today's society. So I don't understand why we're going back to 1960 to figure out what the law says for them in 1960, because in 2020, they have equal rights. And we're sitting here talking about gay rights, and they are not the ones being murdered in the streets.
Wait, so here's the point of my argument with this, right? Or part of the discussion that I'm having. You hear the way that I'm vehemently defending them, or vehemently defending their cause? You hear that? Do you hear that the way I'm defending?
Vehemently, yes.
Vehemently, tit for tat. Hey, that same vigor that I'm bringing to this conversation, I want my white brothers and sisters and my Asian brothers and sisters, I want them fighting for us the same way. I'm an ally of the LGBTQ community. I'm an ally for them. There are other people who are also allies, and we are allies. We as individuals are allies. And there are allies who want to help the cause for social justice, particularly black social justice and social justice as a whole. We need those allies. The same way you and I can have this conversation, and maybe you'll go home tonight, listen to this recording. Maybe there are a couple of things that you say, okay, maybe you had a little point there. Those are the same conversations that white people can have with their brothers, their sisters, their grandfathers, their uncles. They can have those conversations with them. You and I can't walk to their home and have that conversation. We need to infiltrate their hearts and their minds, so that whenever they have a friend who says something that's derogatory or that's ignorant, that they call them out. That's what we need them to do. We need them to call them out. If I'm with someone and they make a comment about a homosexual person, I call them out, because that shit doesn't fly. And so our allies need to be doing the same thing. If the President of the United States can go on TV and call white nationalists good people, but call the people who are protesting in the streets thugs, right, he should be called out on that. his Secretary of State, Secretary of Navy, our Ben Carson, Secretary of Housing Development, he should be calling him out on that. But they're not. They're not doing that. And that's what we need to do. We need to get them calling that out. Because us, 12% of the population, they've been ignoring us for 400 years for this. Yes, they gave us the Civil Rights Act. Nothing still changed. They killed our leaders. Nothing still changed. The only time things have changed in this country is through war. And especially when white people are in it with their heart, mind, and soul.
I'm gonna interject. I want to say something. I'm gonna give you the last word, brother. I'm gonna say something. But I had to interject at that point. You just said that after 400 years, things have not changed. They killed our leaders. Things have not changed. And then you went on to say the only thing they understand is war. So I don't understand why I'm listening to you. I can tell that you're hopeful. And I don't want to necessarily discourage that hopefulness, because I could be wrong. And I hope that I am. Actually, I hope I'm wrong about all of this. But I'm the type of person that I look at the 400 years. And 400 years tells me that they're never, ever going to change. 400 years tells me. Now, we're seeing something different this time. It looks like an awakening. Because when I look at CNN, I do see a lot of white people out there. Right? I see that. But I can't help but to think, well, what the hell was different about George Floyd? What did you see in George Floyd that you didn't see with Trayvon Martin? Or did you see with Tamir Rice, a little kid that had a gun in a park, a toy gun in a park? So I'm looking at it cautiously. Like, I don't know if I can trust it. So again, I hope that you're right. But when I talk about allies, I look at the past 400 years and I say to myself, we've never had an ally. We've never had an ally. We've had some white people that helped us. We've had some Asian people that helped us, but we've never had an ally. Nobody has ever written us a $250 billion check. As a country, we write Israel a $250 billion check annually. Now that's an ally. That is an ally. What could we do with $250 billion annually? We could build our own hospitals. We could build our own schools. We could build grocery stores. That's help. To hell with you marching with me down here, and to hell with you protesting me out here when you're being a devil and you're causing chaos and riots. We're out here trying to do this thing peacefully, and the white guy's over there breaking glass, and then he gets ghost. Then we find out he's a police officer. So it's too many tricks. It's too many con games. And all I'm trying to say is, I don't see an ally. The gay community has skated right past us. And they never looked back. They never asked. They never put their hand out and built us up. So I don't really want to talk about what I can do for them in this moment. And I don't want to take George Floyd isn't even in the grave yet. I don't want to take my eyes off of what's going on, especially as a black man that's raising 2 black sons. I don't have time to be worrying about the gay people and the white people and the Chinese. I don't got time for that. I'm in a warrior mindset right now. I'm on high alert, and I'm thinking about my black people. But with that being said, brother, I'm going to give you the last word.
I hear you. And right now, the main thing that's on our minds is making sure we keep our families safe, keep ourselves safe, making sure that we can come home and see our loved ones again. That's the mindset that we have. And that's the privilege that people who do not look like us don't understand that they have, or they're beginning to realize it. But I don't want you to go away thinking that we do not have allies. Don't look at this world as single individual units of people. Jewish people, black people, white people. We have to start looking at this world as human. We are a group of people who evolved with different skin colors in order to live in the environment that we developed in at that time. We have, as social constructs and as ways of keeping ourselves in power, created race to make sure that we sow division, which has more to do with socio-economic problems than it has anything to do with us as a people. There's no scientific evidence that black people are not smarter than as smart as white people. So that would be the case, then are Asians smarter than Caucasians? A lot of it has to do with the nurture effect of how people are raised. The reason why Asians are so good at standardized tests is because in China, in a lot of the Asian countries, standardized tests were how you made a living, how you made a life for yourself when you grew up. And so that studying is part of their culture. So even though it may seem that they have a leg up, which they do have a leg up because it's part of their culture, that's not something that we can't do. So if we look at the individuals, we will see that we do have individual allies. I am an individual ally. Gay people can say the same thing about us. When have black people ever been allies? And you may counter and say, look, I don't care about your rights. You're ahead of where we're at right now. Until we get the same rights as you, I don't give an F. I need to do for me and mine. And unfortunately, if we keep looking at just the small packages, the small identities that they put us in, we don't realize that we're in a cage. We're all inside a cage. He's trying to find a small opening here, a small opening there, a piece of cheese here, a piece of cheese there, when there's a bigger problem outside where it's the people who have created the cage and have locked us in that cage. And so the only way we solve the problems inside that cage so that we can deal with the outside problems is by being allies together. You need a piece of cheese? You know what? Let's all work together and get that piece of cheese. Oh, you also need a piece of cheese? Let's work towards it. Oh, snap. Everybody now has a piece of cheese. So where do we go from here? Let's get out of this motherfucking cage. Let's get out of this cage and be truly free. And the only way we do that is by working together, is by each individual being an ally towards the cause. If you continue to look at everything as just one group of people, they win. They automatically win. And I'll leave you with this. One of the worst times of my life happened this weekend. I had to sit down and explain to my daughter what was going, because I don't sugarcoat anything with her. What's going on out there, out in the streets? Why are people protesting? Why did cops, who we've told her are there to protect you, if you need help, call 911? Why there are images of police officers with their knees on a man's neck and he can't breathe? And they killed that man. Why? And I tell her all the time, I say, Aurora, what are we? And the answer is, we're human beings. But I had to stop saying that because I said, Aurora, we're also black people too. Because that's what they see us as out there. And daddy's learned, unfortunately I learned this too late in life, is that I need to pay more attention to what they call me, because one day I might be that guy on the street with someone's knee on my neck. Thank you, brother.
Man, thanks a lot, Denny. Before you go, though, I understand you're an author. You got a book written, right? Or you're working on a book. You want to tell the people about it?
So the book I'm working on is about empathy, and it deals with these conversations. It's more of it tries to help people look at things in a different light. One of the stories that I have in there is where you, for example, for me, when I was growing up, and I fell in love with this girl in my high school, and I thought she was the most beautiful person in the world. She was the smartest, the funniest. I fell in love with her. It wasn't something that I could stop. It's not something that I could prevent. It just happened. I fell in love with her. Imagine that. Imagine that feeling, that happiness that you have in your heart. It doesn't matter what the person looks like. It doesn't matter that she was tall or skinny or short or even if she wasn't smart. That I fell in love with her. And that's how people should see love. They shouldn't see love as a man and a woman or a woman and a woman. They should see it for the love that it is and understand you can't help who you love. So I'm working on it, and you'll be one of the first people who will get a copy of it, or you can actually read the first draft once it's done.
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. And it was a joy, man. Whenever I talk to you, man, you definitely do hit me with some things that I got to take a step back and think about it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I hope that you come by again.
Will do, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Dean. Be safe out there in Harlem, New York, brother.
Okay.
Oh, family, look, man. Hey, that was a good build, man. That was a good build. Obviously, two people, two black people, two black men that have two different way of thinking. He wasn't wrong in a lot of things he said, and I hope that he's right. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to actually have some allies? That would be beautiful to actually have allies, but I think that my idea of allies and his idea of allies are two different things. When I think of an ally, I'm talking about cut a check, man. Cut a check so that we can build. Cut a check, man, so that we can get schools, hospitals, and grocery stores. Those are the three, and banks. Schools, what did I say? Schools, grocery stores, hospitals, banks. What about factories? So if you are my ally, cut a check. Cut a check. Send it to the Nation of Islam. Send it to someone that will actually do something with that check. That's all I'm trying to say. But in this time, in this moment, I don't understand the logic in looking elsewhere to help them or to help them or help them. I mean, we are in a crisis here. We in a real pandemic. Forget Corona, this is a real pandemic. As a black man, I'm raising 2 sons. This is a real pandemic, man. I don't got time. You know what? All these other communities, they should be coming to us to help us out right now. I will admit, I am seeing encouraging things on the news, and I hope that the brother is right. I hope he is right. Family, we're about out of here, man. I just ask that you like, share, and subscribe. If you made it to the end, because I was a long build, if you made it to the end, that's a beautiful thing as well. And we'll be back sometime soon.